We share a Black identity. Okay. And I think that's what's difficult out there in the world because they're expecting us to be Black and colored. Yeah. But we see ourselves as identity-wise the same, and we understand that it's our culture then that's different. I hate that thing, my sister.
For me, also being queer is just kind of like my favorite color. It's just it's part of me that is one of the things that's me. It's not my entire identity of life. Hello, I'm Carla, I'm queer.
Welcome back to another episode of Colorful. I am Sihle Gcilitshana, joined in studio by my bestie and possibly favorite human being, Stacey Jane. And today we are talking about love, because how you love, who you love, and the body that you love in, of course, is always political. Right, Stace?
Yes, that is entirely true. And Senna, I am super excited because when we first met our guests, we were obsessed, right?
Remember?
I do remember. We were like, their energy is amazing. And so today we are joined in studio by a face that I'm sure you guys are already familiar with, the beautiful TV and radio presenter, Carla Mackenzie. It is so lovely to have you in studio today. And this is actually our second round because this morning we were on ETV together.
Yes, we did a quick interview and then I thought, okay, let's come back here.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we are joined by the beautiful researcher, activist, entrepreneur, disruptor, right?
Disruptor, the first openly queer Black woman to compete for Miss South Africa. Get that, Hicks?
Sihle Gcilitshana.
Yes.
It is so lovely to have you in studio today, ladies.
Thank you so much for having us. You know, we are just as excited for the conversation. And as you know, we reached out to you because we came across your work, both on social media, but also kind of like listening to it in podcast form. And I came to Carla with the proposal and I was like, listen, this is going to be one of those instances where we're putting ourselves out there. But if you're comfortable with it, I think we should definitely go for it. I'm really drawn to the work that they're doing. And I think from a personal and activist position, it is such a joy to see other people that want to have uncomfortable conversations, because often I am the one that gets told that, I'm a little bit too political. My conversations when we're socializing kind of make people uncomfortable. And I get that, but I think I didn't realize that people sometimes shy away from it. So to see you two really engage and go at it just made me feel like I would be at home here.
Oh,
that's beautiful.
That
was no, because she did come to me and then she said, I think we should do this because we listen to a lot of podcasts, or also try to show each other different kinds of media where we've learned something and stuff. And then she showed it to me. I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen them before. Let's do it.
And it's also, for me, we were talking about it offline. It was like the perfect set of circumstances and all that, because this is going to air in October, which is going to be South African Pride Month. And to see a wonderful queer couple, like interracial as well, with all the nuances and the different identities, is not something we've unpacked on this platform today. We've not been before. Yeah. So it's also super special for us today, and for that vulnerability as well, because there's certain things we don't know. We're straight passing straight. So it's going to be an interesting discussion, and I think that our followers are absolutely going to love it as well. So thank you for joining us. Yes.
So before we kick off, or maybe just to introduce, although I feel like we've done a little bit of that already, but hey, here we go. So you guys know red nail polish? Yes. Okay. So we love red. I mean, just because it's a cool color, but also because it feels bold and courageous. It's a statement, right? You can't wear red lipstick without making a statement. You can't have red nails without making a statement. And that's what we do here. We want to have those kinds of conversations that move us forward. So why one hand of red? It's just on brand. And so that's how we're doing it. Okay. So ladies, this morning, do you want to choose, maybe one of you holds the bottle because it gets a little bit messy if we're going to try and then one of you does the painting.
Okay. Carla, how are we splitting it?
Okay, wait. So do you want me to try and put on for you?
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be
not my forte. It's not my forte.
Look at Sihle challenging, being
and it's going to be an interesting position for you to have to be putting them.
Yes. Nope.
Okay, good.
Okay,
cool.
So while we're doing that, guys, Can I just say, you guys are like the most gorgeous power couple ever.
Right.
You people,
Stop.
stop it. Like, oh my goodness, you're so adorable, so individually beautiful, and together a powerhouse. So, very difficult, but I'm going to put you on the spot. If your relationship had a soundtrack, like what would it be?
There is that song, Baba, What We Gonna Do Right Now. I can't remember the woman's name, but Common is on it.
Oh, it's Josh Stone and Common. But you sang it now, and I want to say that's the song's name. But tell me what you want to do.
Yes.
That's the song.
I
Yeah.
don't want to make my mind up. I can't remember the
You
rest.
sound like Josh Stone.
Oh,
now.
no.
Okay, the voice as well.
Just keep going. Is there anything you guys can't do?
That is a good song for us, actually. Yeah,
Yes.
it is.
You remind me of my mom.
Yeah.
And like if you go back and listen to it, I feel like it totally describes how we feel about each other. And it's always interesting because it is a very heterosexual facing kind of song, right? There's a female voice and then there's a man voice. And you wouldn't think sometimes that queer couples kind of see themselves in that way. But I mean, music is universal and it's the message. It's the message that we feel really speaks to it. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm here by concentration station.
Go for it.
There you go.
What's yours,
So
Senna?
good.
So should I describe one for you and me, or just
Oh, yes.
mine?
Okay, yeah, go for it. You take mine too, please. That would be
Yes,
ideal.
and we had this conversation at the coffee shop just a few hours ago, and we both didn't know.
Do you still not know?
Okay, well, we need to think of something.
You put us on the spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
truth.
Well, we were listening to boy bands when
That
we were
is
coming
true.
over here, so I
We-
feel like
you-
I will pick one and
Okay.
say I think it's Backstreet Boys, As Long As You Love Me. And even though
That is so
we
dramatic.
are not, we're not a romantic couple. We call ourselves platonic life partners.
Okay, lovely.
So there you go. I don't care who you are, as long as you love me.
So dramatic.
So dramatic and cheesy.
It is.
There you go.
Speaking about boy bands, actually, we're learning a song in choir right now. Which one is it? Oh, I've forgotten it. It's gonna come back.
Mhm.
Sorry, ADHD is
Oh,
strong.
also talking about music. So we were talking about when we're going to get married. I'm going to be the music director at our wedding. I don't have any more jobs in that, I think. And then she said, I can't play music that of people that have passed because I'm an old soul. I like old school music from the 70s and 80s. And she's like, can we just please not only play you music at our wedding? We'll see about that.
Interestingly, though, like one of her favorite songs is Zipping Gomo, which is directly speaking about like lobola and basically bringing the cow. So I was like, yeah, no, I like you.
This one we're keeping.
Look at those hands, though.
Well done, Carla.
That is
Well
pretty
done, Carla.
good.
That's
Call me
incredible.
That is
Subway.
pretty good.
So, Sihle, you had started on it before, but take us on that journey. What does it look like the moment that you guys come into each other's lives? What's your love story?
Absolutely bizarre, if I can call it that. I was it was during the Miss SA pageant, right? So in the first week
2019.
Yes, 2019. This is during the time where we are doing our interview kind of schedule. The first place we stop at is where you used to work previously at Jacaranda FM. It is the breakfast morning show. We walk into the studio and I see this woman. Now, she hasn't at all interacted with us, but the way she carries herself, I'm like, okay, she means business and she's clearly doing something really important. And she is also capturing images, I think, for social media in the midst of everything else that's happening. And I'm like, yes, I want to take a picture, but I'm like, I'm too scared. So I asked somebody else to take a picture.
Of yourself.
Yes, of myself. I leave the interview, I post about it, and I say, thank you so much for having us. Guess who responds on the DM?
DMs?
She says,
She's lit in first.
and she says, oh, thank you for being here. I'm like, girl, I did not have a choice. What are you talking about? But thanks. Okay, cool. We get back to the hotel after this morning run of interviews. The organization is like, oh my gosh, Jacaranda loved you. They want to do an article about you. I'm like, okay, you guys can, get us connected. It's Carla
Oh, yes.
that's reaching out to write the article. And that is essentially the the initiation of our discussions.
And my thing when they were still at the station, because it was the top 16 that was there. So it's a lot of women that is in one studio that I need to manage in and out and in and out. And my thing also, if there are so many women, if whoever knows, and I don't care who do know that I'm queer, I don't also want you to feel a type of, I'm here to do my job. So I'm not going to look at every single person because there's somebody else looking after you guys and I'm looking after the show as a whole. And afterwards as well, when I asked for the article, I asked the organization's PR, can I send these questions through? And then they sent your number. I'm like, oh, flip, I didn't ask for a number. But now I have.
If there's anything else I would add was that after those conversations, there was one other media event for Miss SA that she was also going to be at. And we were both so excited because we're like, okay, now we actually can see each other, because I understood now why she was so reserved the first time, knowing that this is what she thinks. Like, I can't make all the women that walk in here feel uncomfortable or even think that me paying attention to them means something. So interestingly, I went back to Jacaranda for another interview, and it turned out that the producer for that show was off. They asked Carla.
No, they weren't off. They were sick, and then they asked me to produce, and I'm like, "That look like a stalker." Because
and we had already started speaking by then. I'm like, "Why didn't you tell me?" She's
I
like,
didn't
know. I'm like, okay, but it was quite visible that my attention was kind of focused elsewhere. And I remember someone very specifically saying, "Girl, we're here to work." I'm like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to win the crown anyway.
This feels like a good trade-off.
Yeah, I literally was like, man, this is giving love.
Yeah, I know where my prize is.
So you spoke about being support for one another. Tell me what that looks like in industry and in the workplace and in life.
I think for me, it's support in work, I suppose, is to truly get to know me and to know me to a better extent than a viewer or a listener, because a lot of people do know me, but I also do need to also confide and be a different kind of person with somebody. And not a different kind of person, like my personality changes. I also just want to cuddle up and just be like, it was a rough day, instead of just waking people up every morning and says it's going to be a great day. So I also need a person that understands that I can't be that. Like I also want to be soft and vulnerable as well. But then also like the other side, complete opposite, then you also then realize the nuances, because then you think you're the same, but then when you go out into the world, you're like, you greeted me a little bit different than her, or the other way around. So we also do get that, but it kind of also just makes us stronger, because the first step is the realization of it, and not to be like, what happened?
And guys, I guess you're touching on something I really want to ask you with all those different nuances. But as you're telling us your story and how your relationship evolved, I'm sensing that for the first time for probably both of you, you truly felt seen. How fully seen can you feel if the nuances don't land? So actually probably tell us about what are they. Carla, you are a colored woman. Sihle, you are culturally colored, as you explained, or something of the sort. So can you take us through before you Tyler me?
So
like,
listen, no. So let us frame it in the way that we see it.
So how I see it, and I think was how we also connected, is to also understand what we feel, even not just bad, like the love, how we see love for a different culture or a different race, how we what our nuances are, and understanding, so that I can also tell her what that person's nuances, and that so I will then pick up on things, for instance, where somebody would greet in a different language that I wouldn't understand. Then I would get a nuance, but then I would also recognize it the other way around when somebody speaks Afrikaans, not knowing that Sihle can speak Afrikaans. So that could also be you were just meaning to speak to me. So we do get those kind of things where we're like, okay, but we understand more than one language or more than two languages. And if we didn't, one of us would have been excluded from this interaction that would have happened. And this person is a grown-up, so you must not know. You must now speak the language that everybody, but then there's an exclusion. So if I didn't understand, would I just have not understood this entire interaction?
I will say that, so firstly, we spoke about this because the moment we thought about having kids together and bringing children into this world, we were like, okay, so let's first understand us and then create the rules that we want to move forward to, because nobody seems to clearly understand how we're interacting with one another. I identify as a Black woman. Carla?
I identify as a colored, cultured woman, because I do feel that with our history and being previously disadvantaged under a certain, I call it in layman's terms, we are all actually Black. We just have different traditions. Sihle has different tradition being Xhosa, but I have different traditions being colored cultured. It might not be in clothing, but it will be in a cup of tea that's been put with a cup and a saucer. It would be kusistas. It would be traditional Sunday lunch. So it would be more in those kind of things. So that's why it's important to be, we are kind of the same, but our cultures,
I think is what sets us apart.
What sets us completely apart.
So
sometimes.
I feel like we share a Black identity. And I think that's what's difficult out there in the world, because they're expecting us to be Black and colored. But we see ourselves as identity-wise the same, and we understand that it's our culture then that's different. I will say that knowing each other and loving each other in that way has allowed us to run interference on each other's behalf, because I can pick up on that nuance, and you are not going to.
And sometimes the other one doesn't pick up on the nuance. I'm like, okay, wag, ons praat in Afrikaans, or somebody said something and not explaining the nuance or the joke even, because jokes are also cultural. So
I'll give you two examples. The first time was when we had movers, and they're offloading. They have damaged one of our couches, and it's one of her prized possessions.
I don't have a lot of prized, but I fixate on certain things, and the couch was one of them.
Yes. So I'm just saying this is unacceptable. He switches to Xhosa or Zulu, and I'm like, Budim, you can see that there's both of us. Can you please communicate in a language that Carla can also understand? Because actually, she's the one that's paying you, and you have damaged her property. So you trying to speak to me, I hate that thing, my sister. Please,
because
no.
I'm actually the forgiving one. If you said sorry, then I would be like, it's fine. But now you're excluding me to from somebody else, and like I would have been like, it's an accident, but
and then maybe
she's appealing for your support.
And drawing
you two together almost.
But I was his support.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Because she doesn't stand for it, but I would.
Yeah. This is such an important point. So you're talking about it in the context of your relationship, but it's also such a relevant point in the world, because in whatever social or political, whatever the interaction is, there's always one party or a number of parties who have privilege in that situation. So how are those who have that privilege bringing others along with them to make it a more inclusive space? Is kind of, I'd love to chat a little bit about you two. Have there ever been circumstances where the nuances between your racial and cultural identities have clashed and have caused conflict?
I would definitely say so, because sometimes Carla understands another layer, another experience that I've never had, and so do I. So what would be a really good example is that I think, for instance, sometimes when we have help around the house, it is Carla just defers to me.
And what you said, if, or when there's help in Johannesburg at our house, and I'm from the Western Cape and we now live in Johannesburg, it would more often than not in Johannesburg be a Black lady that would come help us. And just the nuance of staying a little bit further away from me in the house, asking Sihle where the handy Andy might be, or where Lappy is or something. And I said, I feel So for me, there's never conflict, but there's conflict in my heart about it, because my nuance about that is in Cape Town, a black person has never cleaned my house before. It has been a colored cultured lady. So I don't have the nuance that a black person cleans up after me. And she doesn't know that. And if she knew that, then our interaction would be more beautiful, would be more relaxed. She would just make herself tea like I said she can, but she still holds back. So for me, there's never conflict. I don't ever go into conflict situations, because I think I'm in broadcasting, so I try to talk it out or wait until it kind of like people realize what's happening. So it kind of just like makes me think, I don't know what to do and also, I'm also not a fake person, so I'm not going to be overly nice to you, because I still need to remain who I am. And I hope that you can feel that I'm not treating you like you've been treated before.
I just want to touch on that, because I almost think that that's what apartheid did perfectly, was bringing us subcategories of race and almost trying to make it this perfect system. And so the nature of it is that we sit here with these racial hierarchies and black people being at the very last in the pecking order. But it does create these dynamics between us people of color as well in that group. So even though you can say that, of course, like, you know, I'm open, I'm friendly, make yourself a cup of tea. Her lived experience, and certainly, like I'll say my lived experience, some of the worst racism I've faced has come from colored people or Indian people growing up in KZN. So, I mean, what are the conversations looking like between culturally colored and black people from this perspective when you're now bringing in your relationship? What tensions are there in the broader space?
So I think there are, I think, many more tensions, like you said, that it isn't only a white person that can show racism. It can be many people, and I think that's what we also need to understand is that it is because of that person's ideology for their culture or their life that they are then imposing that hateful feeling towards someone, and it is not only one race. But Sihle and I do speak about it.
I have another example
of where, you know, this might be the nuance. This is why this auntie reacted this way to you. That she actually lives in a small town where no black people really lives. So it's not, I can see it in her eyes, it's not racism. She's just not used to you. And she doesn't know. She's she doesn't know how. Yeah. So I'm like, this one, trust me, not this auntie. She's just not, she hasn't been exposed to many different
helping you navigate.
Yeah, helping you navigate that. Don't get angry every time.
Right.
I know that we are activists, but not every time. Sometimes, yes, there are people, but you know, this auntie just doesn't know better. And she didn't use any words, anything. She's like, speaking of Afrikaans, I'm like, no, this auntie she's not sure of her interaction. That's all.
And I would say that I think actually it is the external people that are looking to create tension and conflict with us, because we get each other. And one example is there is a auntie that sells Crew Sisters in our neighborhood, and we go every Sunday. And when we used to go, I just realized that they just did not engage with me. And I was like, did you pick that up? She's like, no, I didn't see it. I'm like, okay, let's just watch for it next time, because this is also something, right? We understand that, cool, there are nuances that now we understand, and that we are teaching one another about. So we go the second time, and again, and I'm just like, okay, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm not going to walk with you. I will walk with you till a certain point. You will go and order and pay, because I will not be engaging with someone who will not see me. And Carla was like, rightly so, my darling.
I'm like, all right, we're just buying Crew Sisters. Now we must have this bad feeling every Sunday. Stay where you are. She can sell it, but it's not, she didn't, it's just greeting me different then. And I'm like, okay, but we don't have to be exposed. You can just remove yourself from situations.
But it's so hard, right? Because
it's hard.
So I have
we're choosing which battles to fight the whole time.
Exactly right. And that's the point. Because if when you are faced with let's call it unconscious bias, because I'm not entirely sure if the woman, the cook sister woman meant it or didn't mean it, or even knows what's going on in her mind in that moment. The point is, those are possible moments to say, hey, did you notice that you greeted me differently to my partner? But do we have the energy to do that every time? And who on the other end is open versus closed to receiving that message?
I am not going to be engaging with whatever you might be aware or unaware of. But you know what? Over time, it started to change because they noticed my behavior, right? I didn't do anything to them. I didn't say anything. I didn't even give an ugly look. I always kind of smiled there and I'm like, okay, go. And I'm standing in a visible spot. So now they are reading how I'm reading them. And it kind of pushes them to confront. It pushes them to confront, hang on, why is that girl now suddenly not here? And the truth of it is you might just lose business because if Carla's not here,
who gonna buy from?
You might not gonna have sisters.
You know,
you know what I'm saying? And then we watched this shift slowly but surely. And now they are the friendliest.
Really?
Entirely.
That's quite.
There was
no
conversation
end to the story.
There was no conversation had, but you see what being able to understand what's happening in that moment.
Yeah.
I have Carla support.
I want to talk about that support because as you just described there, for me, I feel like the key to having a friendship or relationship or any sort of is actually being seen. So when someone is saying to you, hey, my gut that is primed to understand and pick up these things is telling me that this interaction is unsafe. And your response to that, because it's not unsafe for you, is to dismiss that and say, babe, you're overreacting. It's a kind of like trust thing that I can't get over or a little bit. And I feel like it's so important to hold each other, like hold space for that. You may not understand, but this interaction feels hostile. And that's how we begin changing the behavior when the people who are saying, actually, you know what, I stand behind you. If you are saying that this behavior is unsafe, I stand behind you. I always credit you for that as well when I get catcalled. And
guys, we will literally be walking together in the mall and like guys will come up to her, they will catcall her, they'll say, hey baby, I missed you, where have you been? He's never seen her before in his life. I get none of that, not a thing. I turn around and be like, what? Well, sometimes I play, I'm like, what about me? Other times I'm like, do you think that's very kind? Like,
and that's that interference,
right?
Yeah,
you can run on each other's behalf because it's necessary, especially when you know the nuance in your identity.
Exactly.
It would never be fair for Carla to also be in a space where she feels as though she is unseen. And it happens more often than you realize because I think people sense the love. They sense who we are, how comfortable we are with each other. And, I started speaking about these weird interactions I have with men or we have with men on social media. One of which is people making just like crude comments once they hear that we're together. Do you know what I did? I went straight to his manager. It was a petrol attendant. And I said, listen, one of your employees just crossed a major, major line. Send an email, babes. Got an apology from the head immediately. And I said, the people and the customers that use this garage are mainly students. If you're going to do this to me, how safe are these young women coming here? That is a battle I'm willing to pick on any day. And we're not going to stop coming here. The next time we were there, they were apologizing. You remember, we were trying to get out of the car, but like, I don't think that necessarily fixes the problem, but it's accountability.
Yeah.
That is what I am looking for, always. I'm not going to pick a fight in jail to prove a point. No, I'm just letting you know what you've done is entirely unacceptable to me, and I'm going to need you to just check yourself. Or else you need to start understanding that there are repercussions for just running your mouth.
Do you feel as though then there's this reputation or this dismissal that you speak too much or you are...
Yeah, I know I have it, but I always wonder what Carla's take on it is because like I am more than happy to carry that, whatever label you want to use, go ahead. I'm too chatty, I'm too whatever. Cool, can we address your behavior? It's okay. I can be. And the thing is, you have to really get comfortable with being a disruptor. It's not always pleasant, but I always feel like it's important for me to at least share it with Carla. And sometimes then there needs to be a game plan going in.
Yeah.
Because,
Well, Carla, where do you stand? Do you find frustrated sometimes, or you do stand firmly behind her?
I do stand behind her sometimes. Because I'm not a disruptor. I'm actually the opposite in my personal life. But my activism or disruptor might come from learning nuances from society and the world, and the same world that listens to radio. And that then gives me a deeper understanding of the content I put out there. And maybe just not for me, but when I produce, because because of people acting funny like this or acting beautifully, I do understand people better, and I can be a disruptor for good in a space like that. And you disrupt for us then, public.
I would also like to say that, you know what? Sometimes disrupting is doing nothing. And that is the art that Carla has taught me, because I want to go guns blazing.
I'm like, it's about to pop off. You're all catching the smoke.
Yeah, so sometimes I'm like, because then Sihle reacts, and then I'm like, wait, my first reaction is, how dare you? Because you don't know my history, you don't know my story, you don't know where I've stood up, what my history is, who my parents are. Like, you're judging me, but my dad is exactly your skin tone. So I have no qualms or worries with you. So I'm a little bit quieter and there.
What about that? You just started mentioning families. How have your families reacted and to you as a queer interracial couple?
Queer intercultural.
Thank you. Actually, as I heard it, I was like, hey, backtrack. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So, my mother at first, she was kind of, but she was more so that people might judge me in public because of, like, okay, no, but they wouldn't want a queer person or whatever. I love you, but like work-wise.
Because of the queer, or because of the interracial relationship or intercultural?
I was always queer, but now she's like, okay, but now you live it out more,
openly.
And I'm also Afrikaans, and so wait, what was my point?
Family acceptance.
Oh yeah. So moms were cool, and then when I found that out, I explained to them that for every person that I work, they know I'm queer, they know about Sihle, and they ask can we come for dinner? And she's like, really? And I'm like, yes. And then she's like, okay, but now everything is fine. So that is, I don't speak to my father, and I think that's possibly where activism comes in, is that I decide which things I address and which ones I stay away from, because it is not my responsibility to address. But I have activism in, say, my heart. I have changed my surname from my dad's surname to my mother's maiden name because of activism, legally on my ID. So when somebody asks me, what's your activism? I'm like, you don't know
the backstory. It has to be loud.
Yeah,
I'd also like
to
say that, you know what, you forget these things, but this is why I'm here and we are here. I gush over her quite often, but something she did early on in her career was that there was a restaurant that had a very salacious name, kind of, I can't remember what the context is, so you'll add if you want to, but it just was just a disparaging name for women. And she emailed them, tweeted, they changed the restaurant name.
I love that. I'm like, talk about personal power. That's beautiful.
Play on words of like an Asian play on words, and then it was like it landed. It sounded more Afrikaans, so I could know what the nuance is. And I'm like, no, we had to eat, not play on sexual words. But I mean, it was also other people who jumped on it, but the restaurant it's not there anymore, so whatevs.
Or did they change the name, or did they close it altogether?
They changed the name, and then afterwards they closed it. Maybe they were on a bad corner, but I don't know.
Speaking about family, so I started socializing my parents in about university already. They'd always ask, oh, do you have a boyfriend? I'm like, why didn't you ever ask if I have a girlfriend? Not that I had one at the time, but it was just kind of like, also I was uncomfortable with the question, this pressure that like, oh, suddenly I'm desirable. I was a kid. So by the time I came out to my parents, which was just sharing by that time, but doing the pageant felt like I was coming out all over again, except now on a larger scale, because the story got picked up by like the universe.
Yeah.
I was just like, what? Why are they writing about me? You're stressing me out. But
and why is it such a thing?
This
like,
was
it's just,
I
For
couldn't
me,
understand.
also being queer is just kind of like the my favorite color. It's just a part of me that is one of the things that's me. It's not my entire identity of life. Hello, I'm Carla, I'm queer.
And we have since integrated our families. I mean, like, I think we've spent 2 or 3 Christmases together.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't Christmas, it was Boxing Day. And, you know, I also remember saying to my parents that, like, listen, I'm going to Cape Town for this Christmas. It's also my first Christmas away, but it is something I want to show on the other side of Carla's family that, like, I take this seriously and I want to know what your practices are around this time. So I think on that front, there was a beautiful acceptance and understanding, because our parents they're the modern age parents. They completely are willing to take themselves out of what their parents' thinking was and kind of be like, but this is my child. So how do I meet them halfway? An interesting dynamic, though, was my grandmother. You know, God-fearing woman, Christian, as we both were raised. And funny enough, my parents and my grandmother, my little sister, were all there when we moved into our new home. And they were the first guests that we welcomed. And my grandmother had such a great time. And she took so well to Carla. But that colored cultural mention in the beginning was because my grandmother is actually a colored Xhosa. Her first home language is Afrikaans. She grew up in Humansdorp, and then she was an Afrikaans teacher for her whole life. But the black identity was always there because Bangama Xhosa, they are Xhosa people, but she was just fair-skinned. And that in its own had its own dynamic.
Yeah.
She marries a Xhosa man, they move to the Eastern Cape, and everyone is just horrible to her because during apartheid, colored cultured people were favored, especially if you spoke Afrikaans. And the dynamic is that this Afrikaans was this language that wasn't forced on us. It was so imposed that the only way you could fight for your own identity was to reject it. So when she comes into that space and she is getting all of this like negativity, I think I watched my grandmother kind of kill that part of her identity because it was just safer for her to lean more towards Xhosa. And I mean, like, she's fluent, that is also her culture. But they literally used to use that word, ulilau, which means you're colored. And I think it's actually quite a bit of like a racial slur now that I'm older. It's like saying kwera kwera.
Yeah.
It's one of those things.
In Zulu, we said, I'm a busman.
Exactly. So she I think changed along the way to start hating that part because it just brought her so much pain to continue holding it, especially as an Afrikaans teacher, right? So there was a demand for her skill set in rural Eastern Cape, but like you can only live it in the classroom. Now when I try to speak to her in Afrikaans, she's like, sometimes I can't, she forgets, she can't. And I asked her once that, like, listen, so do you understand what queer means? Because this was after Miss Essay. And she was like, yeah, I think I understand. And I was like, so Carla and I are not roommates. We're not housemates. We're together. Please. And do you get it? And then she was like, yeah, I thought it was just a phase. I'm like, Makulu, it's not. And you know what? I completely understand what your belief system and also what the Bible teaches, but I'd like you to know that, like, people have gone to war and massacred people on religion and other things. So, like, me and Carla sitting in our home loving each other, that is not something you need to be worried about.
We had this conversation this morning.
This is the best episode ever, guys.
So we had the interview with you this morning, right? On ETV this morning, and we were driving back in the car on our way to this new interview, and just saying like, it was just so wonderful to meet Carla, because we had obviously met both of you online prior to this interview, and we just said the energy, the love, the beauty of these two people, and then it just in the same breath we said, and it must have been so hard. There's so many things that they've had to overcome and be faced with. And it's like, why? Why? Because they're beautiful people. Why is this a defining characteristic? It is the most arbitrary. It's just so unimportant to the work they do in the world and the way they show up and the love that they put out there. How is that something to hate on someone for? And it's just, yeah.
I think when when you see that how enriched your life is with all the experiences, I'm 100. My home language is Afrikaans. I speak in English, and I'm dating a Xhosa woman. It's just all of these experiences through love that's just. It works all together.
Yeah.
Like, who said it doesn't work?
Broaden your circle, meet all these people, and be deeply enriched by difference.
These days, Sihle makes jokes in Afrikaans, and I'm like, you not only speak of, but you make a joke. Like, I'm like,
I feel that way when she says like a vernacular word. I'm like, go girl. But it's exactly about that. And I feel like part of the reason we also wanted this podcast is because I feel like the way we speak about differences in identity is in a way that doesn't emphasize like the human experience. Why is that not factored into our diversity conversations, right? We tend to be very policy driven with them and numbers driven, what's working in economically. And that is so important. But at the core of who we are, guys, what about our human experience? Who are we as people?
Exactly. If we don't know one another, if we only know people who look and feel and say exactly the same things as us, then what have we robbed ourselves of being alive?
I'd like to share that you can imagine that growing up in rural Eastern Cape, the messaging at home was Afrikaans is the language of the oppressor. So when I was applying for universities, she said, Free State is off the line, Stellenbosch is off the line, Potch is off the line. If you're going to go anywhere that is an Afrikaans university, no, they were literally over.
But it's also funny because can I come in?
Yes, of course.
Because I'm like, when I heard, okay, yes, we all know about language policies and all that thing. And I'm like, yeah, but I did all of my modules in English at Stellenbosch University. So there's also not in that world where you can choose. It's not all in Afrikaans. And then you take people away from experiences because of people dividing people. I'm like, I did all of my politics, economics, everything in English. What is just only Afrikaans thing?
But it's what the National Party did so well. It's appropriating a language. And I think we've not gone into deep the history of Afrikaans, but essentially like it is a people of color language. It's an amalgamation of so many different things. And what they did so successfully was appropriating that to sort of build a nationalism that then became associated across racial lines.
Something I will say is that people didn't know that even within that, because I think it was the cohort that went to school during the 70s and the 80s were definitely just like opposed to it. So you can imagine that by the time I come around, that is what my mom's experience is. Then I moved to Kimberley, which is also an Afrikaans dorpie, small town. And I remember a friend's parent making a joke in Afrikaans, and I didn't understand it, and everybody laughed. And I was just like, nope, that is not going to happen. And so I've naturally been drawn to the language, but also not just as a defense mechanism. Sorry, the origins is my grandmother. It's not what you think. And so...
And I also didn't teach you any language. What I'm saying, just because I'm Afrikaans, I mean, I taught you the language.
And here you are.
Exactly. And I think that perhaps like for Afrikaans-speaking people, that is still the perception that like Black people hate Afrikaans. And you should see the shock and some Afrikaans people when I greet them. They're like, oh, hi. I'm like, yeah, it's okay, but let's be natural about it. Okay, because then what people are going to try to do is tokenize me. Nope. I am not there for it. This is also my language, and it is also my love language with my partner. It is the one commonality we have that we did not have control over.
As Black people.
I'm going to ask you a closing one, though.
Okay.
Because you do have a beautiful love story. And I think individually what you've both done with your careers and your activism, and then again how you show up in the world, I think it's a lesson in love. But what is the one thing that, you wish you could tell your younger self about your queer identity, about your racial identity, and your place in the world?
I would tell her that she did it. Like, I've already, like when I was small, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this, or I really like, I was really small listening to the radio. I'm like, I'd like to do that, or I'd like to be this kind of person. Because I didn't have a great relationship with my dad. We like lived together for like 21 years of my life, but I'm like, I'm going to be this kind of person when I go out there into the world. I'm not going to believe what a person say I am. You stupid, you this, you that. So from a young age, I was like, I'm going to be a person that's kind, that's this. And already I think at the age of 35, I'm like, yeah, you did it. That's why a lot of people don't shake me, because it's a deeply personal journey that I'm walking.
I would tell little Sihle, who's gone through a lot of identity changes, by the way, and all of them intentional now, and it's such a beautiful part of that. But I would say it's okay to say the uncomfortable thing at home and to the people you love, because when you say it out there, you will not be shaken, you will not be scared. So I really would just say practice using your voice at home, because when it's time to really get out there, I can't be scared. I really cannot, because I always think that if I don't say it, what's the next person, child, girl, human going to have to do? And so, yeah, man, it's uncomfortable sometimes, but you know what? I love myself. Carla loves me. So does my family. And that's it.
And that's that. And on that note, guys, thank you for joining us. It has been such a great conversation.
Thank you so
much.
I also want to say thank you to Kantar's Pride ERG for sponsoring this episode, which will air in October Pride Month. So thank you. It's a call to all companies to continue supporting your employee resource groups. Put some actual money behind supporting everyone in your organization and making them feel seen. Don't just talk about it in your policies. Okay? So that's it from us.